That's how he fed us.
Sure.
Yeah.
He fed all of us with that money, that Texaco money.
And Texaco had their own grocery store right there at the entrance of the gate.
Mm-hmm.
And they would give you, beside your paycheck, they would give you these coupons.
Mm-hmm.
And you could go to the store and use the coupons to buy the groceries, their groceries, and you would feed your family with that.
Do you think the prices were higher at the Texaco store than they would have been at the neighborhood store, or
Well,
it
with
was kind of hard
coupons,
to
you'd come out
figure
ahead.
out?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, we were lucky that we were well fed by Texaco, and we were lucky that we were educated at Thomas Jefferson, that was Franklin School, Woodrow Wilson, Thomas Jefferson High School. I went to school with some very fine people, most of them very successful. But my teachers just molded my whole mind, my whole brain, and they taught me how to become a writer. And they taught me the English language. So now I could speak 2 languages, and I could read and write.
So when y'all grew up at home, was Spanish the only language spoken in your home?
That's
and then
correct.
you learned English at school?
My mother and father never could speak English.
Yeah.
We spoke to them in Spanish, and at school we speak English. And my teachers, they were so good, they were teaching me the power of words. Because I told them I wanted to be a writer.
Right.
The power of how to convey an idea, how to convey an emotion with words. And my teacher, I wrote about my teachers too.
But that was lost after our generations because the kids after us didn't pick up that skill of speaking Spanish, and it's gotten lost. Now you've got 3 and 4 generations that don't speak any Spanish at all, just English. But
And where did your father come from but prior to San Antonio? What region of Mexico? It was Mexico, correct?
yes, it was the first little state right on the other side of the border, Coahuila. It was a small little farming town he came from, Zaragoza. Our mother came from a big city, Monterrey, and she had family down here too.
Okay.
And her mother and daddy, I think, were in San Antonio already, and she had some brothers that lived there. And they ran a boarding house there in San Antonio. And that's how my father got to know my mother, is at that boarding house, because she was just like a little girl, 12, 13 years old, working in the kitchen at the boarding house to feed the guys that would come in from work. And they would cook their supper for him. And he was one of the workers that came there and stayed at the boarding house.
And that's how they
And he was impressed because her family, her mom and dad, were one of the few people that had a car back then. And it was just a little Model T car that they had. But he was impressed that, well, they got a boarding house and they've got a car, which was unusual back in the days, right after the Depression, a family having a car. So,
Certainly.
yeah, he got to meet her then, but he didn't marry her until later on.
Wonderful. So then he moved here first, and then later on she moved, or?
I don't remember who came here first because he kind of traveled in the area in southeast Texas, working at the mills first.
Okay, but they spoke Spanish in the home exclusively.
Yeah.
Would that make it difficult for your father at work that he didn't know English?
Well, he told me later that after being there several years, that they offered him a position as a foreman, but he said he turned it down because he couldn't speak English, and he felt like he wasn't capable of communicating with the workers that would be working under him, so he turned it down. So he just remained a laborer all his career there at Texaco. That's how good of a person that he was able to get other workers to work for him and around him. That they saw that in him. He was a hard worker, and offered him a position as a foreman, which he would have made lots more money, but he turned it down because of his inability to speak English.
I remember that my mother's parents had a boarding house on Houston Avenue, just 1 block from the gate to Texaco. So these workers from Texaco would rent these rooms there, and they would eat there. They would take a bath there, make a lunch there and just walk 1 block to the gate.
Yeah.
It worked out well, because they would get their paychecks and pay the rent for room and board.
That was another thing. All these Hispanic families that were working there that lived close to that main gate ended up buying homes there close to the gate. And I remember our first home was on West 18th Street, right there in the 100 block. Was named 400 block, just 4 blocks from Houston Avenue. And the next street out of Texaco was 19th